2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Duncan.
Here.
Chair Nunley.
Here.
Commissioner Manford.
Here.
Commissioner Griffin is absent. Commissioner Jefferson.
Here.
Commissioner Osmany, absent. Commissioner Ramos.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. I think it's online. 1 second. Sorry, we're trying to get it on. Commissioner Stajabu.
Here.
Commissioner Starks is absent, and Commissioner Wu.
Present.
Okay.
Commissioner Stark says he's on his way.
Okay.
All right, we have a quorum. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda today? Okay, so we'll now move on to the public comment section of the agenda. Madam Clerk, can you please read the public comment script?
Persons wishing to address the commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. The commission cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting. To speak on an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card and give it to the clerk. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. And we have no public comments.
Okay, so we will then move on to the consent items on the agenda. Would you read the consent item wording?
All matters listed on consent are to be approved by one motion unless a commissioner or the public requests a separate action is taken on a specific item.
Okay, so can I get a motion from the commissioners to approve the consent?
I have a question.
Yes. Vice Chair Nunley.
You say approval of commission minutes for May 1st?
Yes, we couldn't approve them at the last meeting, so we have to approve them at this meeting. This last meeting, we didn't have a quorum, so I had to move that item to this meeting.
Okay, well, that's for the April 17th. I'm confused by the May 1st since technically there wasn't a meeting, I thought. Am I confused?
Yeah, there's still the minutes that say that there was no quorum and that we had the presentations and who was here and everything.
I'm a little confused by that one because technically there was a meeting.
But there's still documented action that took place even though there was no voting.
All right.
Yeah, this is General Counsel Brad McConnell. There was still a meeting that was held. It's just that no quorum was reached, so no business could be transacted.
All right, thank you.
So moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wu. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Manford. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
All right, looks like Ross is joining us. Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Manford,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
Ross?
Yes, we're voting on the consent items.
Yes, I read those. Yes.
Commissioner Stajabu
Aye.
and Commissioner Wu.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. So we'll move on to the public hearings. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of item number 4?
2025 one-year action plan, federal programs allocation process, workshop number 2, and consolidated plan public hearing.
All right, and we have a presentation from staff.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Lucia and I'm a community development analyst here at SHRA. Today's presentation will be the second workshop for the 2025 annual action plan and the 5-year consolidated plan. The action plan and consolidated plan process started with workshop number 1 back in February, and following that, SHRA met with city and county staff to identify potential projects and review them for readiness and eligibility as well. The purpose of today's workshop is to present a draft list of projects for CDBG funding in the upcoming action plan, and to also receive input on those and any new ideas for activities. In addition, we have our consultant for route policy here who will be providing an update on the 2025 through 2029 consolidated planning process. She will be presenting right after me. And we are also holding a public hearing for the Citizen Participation Plan and Language Access Plan, which are both part of the consolidated plan. I will start by reviewing the estimated action plan allocations and proposed projects for the city, and then I will also be doing the same for the county. Okay, so on this slide, we have the 2025 estimated CDBG allocations for the city. We anticipate receiving about $4.7 million in CDBG funding in 2025 for the city. This slide shows an estimate of how those funds will be allocated among the various different programs listed on the screen. Generally, we reserve the maximum of 15% of the entitlement for public services and just about 20% for grant planning and administration. From there, we work backwards to identify available funds for public facilities and housing projects as well. This year, we are anticipating allocating approximately $970,000 to infrastructure and public facilities improvements and a little over $1 million to housing programs. Okay, and on this slide, we have included the draft list of infrastructure and public facility projects for the city. These projects include the Niños Park Playground, the Dos Rios Housing Site Remediation, Colonial Park Restroom Rehab, and the 24th Street Bypass Park Exercise Equipment Install. At the end, you can see we also included a line item to cover funding for environmental review for projects. And now to start with the 2025 estimated CDBG allocations for the county side. In the county, we anticipate receiving about $6.7 million in CDBG funding for 2025. And again, this slide shows the breakdown of the estimate of how those funds will be allocated among our various different programs. We anticipate allocating approximately $2.5 million from this year's entitlement to infrastructure and public facilities improvements, and about $1.75 million to housing programs. And now for our recommended projects for the county. Here we have the draft list of infrastructure projects that are being recommended. These projects include Phase 3 of the Fruit Ridge Sidewalk Improvement Project, the Stockton Boulevard Complete Streets, Rudder Park Improvements, which also includes a new basketball court, the North Watt Avenue Street Improvements, Wida Waste Sidewalk Infill, Gibson Ranch ADA Improvements, and lastly, we have the Walnut Grove ADA Restrooms. And in this one, we also have the environmental review line at the end, just like in the city. And to wrap it up, we have the action plan allocation process as we move forward for both the action plan and the consolidated plan. Following this workshop today, we will hold an additional workshop at City Council and Board of Supervisors in June. Then over the next couple of months, we will continue to meet with city and county staff as needed to refine the draft list of projects presented today. Then in October, we will return to you all with the final list of projects for approval before returning back to the city and county for final action plan approval. Concurrently with the action plan, we will be conducting community outreach for the consolidated plan, which will be finalized in August and adopted in October along with the action plan. I'm happy to take any questions or comments about the action plan now. Otherwise, we have a brief presentation from Root Policy on the consolidated plan, and we can take questions on either item following the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments so far?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Ross.
Okay, hi. So this is great. Thank you. I've seen this several times, and so I know most of the funding goes to city projects, or all of the funding goes towards city projects or the county projects. That's needed quite a bit. I was just curious, how are these prioritized, these various projects? Is it submitted by the city and the county, and for public works, and then they're deciding on that, or are there other ways of, or do the citizens kind of put in their recommendations for projects in the hat? And just curious.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Green. I'm the federal programs manager for the federal programs. I can answer this question. So we get recommendations from both the city and the county departments on their prioritized projects. But we, as the CPG staff, look at each of the projects for eligibility and based on other things. So the staff prioritization is just something we take into account when looking at projects. We also get project ideas from city council members, board of supervisors, and also the commission if they ever wanted to propose any ideas. So we kind of look at a few different things when we're prioritizing projects.
Okay, so just the idea for citizen interest with respect to various parks or other concerns. So they would need to go to their city council or county supervisor representative and ask for prioritization from that perspective. I just run into different people and they'll say, hey, well, what about this area? What about that? I was just curious to see, how that prioritization process takes place. And I know you explained that, but I was just curious, what would a citizen do if they were concerned about an area that they had?
Yes, I think generally the citizens speak to their representatives and we hear through that avenue.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time, and our consultant for group policy, Heidi Aguilar, will be presenting on the consolidated plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Hello, everyone. I'm Heidi Agler. I'm from Root Policy Research. I'm a consultant that works with cities and states and counties on completing consolidated plans, as well as other types of studies that are related to HUD requirements. And I'm going to talk today not only about the consolidated plan, but the citizen participation plan and the language access plan. The consolidated plan, as you all are aware, is a 5-year plan. Our firm is in the process of updating that. So unlike the action plan that Denise just talked about, this is a strategy, a 5-year strategy that identifies priorities as well as helps guide the allocation, that annual allocation over 5 years. It covers 4 grants. One is CDBG. This is a grant that's been around for a long time. It was founded or created in 1974, and it's really a community development grant. Some of those dollars can be used for housing, but at the core, it's community development, neighborhood revitalization. Those dollars can be used, as you saw, for public infrastructure projects, for community facilities, as well as public services, so operating dollars for nonprofits. HOME was established in 1990. Unlike CDBG, it's more of a housing program, so you can think of HOME as being allocated for developing new housing, as well as rehabilitation and tenant-based rental assistance. There are 2 other programs, the Emergency Solutions Grant, that assists people who are at risk or experiencing homelessness, and HWAPA, which helps people who and their families who have HIV/AIDS. So this plan that we're working on will be submitted to HUD on November 15th, and then the action plan is the 1-year spending plan that Denise and her team have been working on. Associated with this plan is the citizen participation plan, and then a supplement to that is a language access plan. And that citizen participation plan, which I'm here to talk about today, it sets forth the policies and procedures for participation in the 5-year planning process. So this is a document that is appended to the consolidated plan that HUD also reviews, and it specifies how SHRA will engage citizens to understand how the funding should how funding should be prioritized over the next 5 years. The engagement is pretty flexible. It's written into the citizen participation plan, so it's going to change year to year depending on what else is being, type of participation is in the field to gather public input. It might involve focus groups, interviews with stakeholders. Those are people who are involved in the daily business of housing and community development. Engaging residents through a survey, which I'll talk about in a moment, as well as focus groups. There is a mandate to discuss the priorities with the Housing Authority, with the Continuum of Care, who oversees homeless strategy, as well as those organizations that are involved in HWAPA and ESG. Resident engagement is really guided by meeting people where they are, so understanding what activities are going on, how can we engage residents through pop-up activities, which is our proposal for the consolidated plan, as well as a survey and focus groups. And there's an emphasis, as you see here in the third bullet, on BIPOC, LEP, people with disabilities, as well as residents in of public and assisted housing. That is built into the HUD regulations, and we make a concerted effort to make sure that the engagement represents all different types of people of the region. So a typical timeline for engagement begins in January. In January, community surveys are designed, which we have designed surveys out in the field right now. There's a public hearing and workshops that staff have run on priorities and also proposed projects. April through June, this is the phase we're in now, the community engagement is in full swing, and the city and county, as you just heard a moment ago, submit their proposed project. August through November, the draft plan is finalized, presented to you all. It's out for public comment. There's a 30-day public comment associated with this plan, submitted to HUD in mid-November. HUD reviews the plan, comes back with changes, and then the plan is submitted to HUD and SHRA receives funding. Language Access Plan, as I mentioned earlier, is a supplement to the Citizen Participation Plan, and it determines how people who may have limited English proficiency, are engaged in this process. SHRA's Language Access Plan is very strong. We do a lot of these throughout the country, and yours really jumps out as being a very strong plan. Just some highlights here on the slide. SHRA contracts with a vendor who has the ability to provide interpretation and translation in up to 180 languages. And then the real cornerstone of the Language Access Plan is which documents should be translated or interpreted based on language and analysis of language access needs. The contract that SHRA has also provides funding for on-call translation and interpretation, so it's a very flexible document. In terms of the analysis that's done to understand what that interpretation or translation needs are, it's called a 4-factor analysis that HUD requires. That had been done, and we updated that for this plan, and basically you see here in this table, it's determined by, so translation and interpretation are determined by the size of the population, both numerically as well as the proportion of the limited English proficiency population that's represented in the city. For SHRA, vital documents will be translated if there are 1,000 or more people who have limited English proficiency, and that's for each individual language, or 5% of the eligible population. If the numbers are smaller than that, then documents will be translated or be available for interpretation upon request. So just a little bit of a promotion of the survey that's in the field. This is a survey that is available for both stakeholders, so people who are operating in housing and community development fields, as well as residents. You can take a picture of the QR code and access the survey. It's available in a number of languages in conformance with the Language Access Plan. We'll be doing over the summer months, so in June and July, what we call pop-up activities. So one of my staff has been planning and working with organizations that hold food markets. We're looking at what we do. We bring booths and have activities at the community events so that people can stop by and spend 5 minutes engaging with us to determine or share their prioritization, their thoughts on housing and community development needs. We've also been doing a lot of stakeholder meetings, so we've been interviewing stakeholders mostly virtually. With that, I'm happy to take comments from you all, or open up the public hearing to take public comment on the Citizen Participation Plan, the Language Access Plan.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Okay. And I will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
There are none.
Okay.
I do have one comment.
Yes.
So I'm going ahead to do the survey. Do we need to do the survey, or are you able just to provide the survey questions to us as a printout later on? Because I did do the QR code. It might be better just to have it just printed out so we could just look at the questions, see what that's about.
Yeah, we'd be happy
Because
to provide the survey.
otherwise I'm filling out the survey, and I guess I could. But that's what I
Want us to skew your data, do you?
mean.
You're
It may
welcome.
apply, may not apply. So that's all. I
Yeah.
was just thinking maybe just for our
Yeah,
review,
go-
if we could just get a copy of it.
Yeah, we can print you out a copy so you can review it.
Thank you. It's helpful. I've already started it, but just think it'd be easier. Thank you.
And I failed to mention, I should mention that the findings from the survey, we do a lot of analysis of the results. We provide that as an appendix to the consolidated plan. The consolidated plan has a very small segment in it that talks about citizen participation and findings. So we provide a more robust appendix that talks about priority needs that can be used in a lot of different ways.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes, thank you. Approximately how many different languages do you translate into?
It depends on the request, but the survey follows I'm sorry you can't access, I can't show you the survey, but there's a landing page and then you can choose the number of languages. The survey will take you to the language of interest, so you complete the survey in your native language.
Okay, so.
It's pretty easy.
So the languages, the translations from English to the different language already exist?
Yes.
And how many are included in the survey?
I don't remember off the top of my head, I think it's between 8 and 13.
Okay.
But I'm happy, I could check that quickly.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so anyone can do the survey, or it's like any community member can take it, or it's supposed to be limited to only certain folks?
No, any community, it's for residents as well as people who are working in the field, but it will ask you where you live within the county. So what we do, we ask people for the city that they live in order to be able to analyze the survey results for individual areas.
So any resident of Sacramento County?
Yes,
You don't have- you don't have to be in an SHRA property? You
No,
don't have
not
to-
at all.
Certain income level, okay. All right, and then, so it's called a citizen, what was it called, citizen something plan?
Participation plan?
I assume you don't have to be a US citizen to participate?
No, that's HUD language.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any way that maybe we could promote it not using that? Because there might be non-citizens who are residents in the county who might not think like, oh, I shouldn't fill this out because I'm not a citizen.
Yeah, just to clarify, the citizen participation plan is a regulatory document that's attached to the consolidated plan. So the survey instrument is a method of engaging under the citizen participation plan, but it's not a it's a vehicle for engaging, but not necessarily, the survey itself is not doesn't need to carry that regulatory language. So if there's anything in the survey invitation that you feel is discouraging non-citizens from taking the survey, we'd be happy to change that.
Okay.
It's the citizen participation plan, the name of that is a regulatory name, but it's not necessarily, so it's guiding citizen participation, but that citizens could review it, but wouldn't necessarily need to have to have that to access the survey, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then are there ways that this is proactively being shared out, like on social media or emailed out or?
Stephanie can talk
And-
about promotion.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing it in a multiple number of ways. We'll be posting it on our website. We've sent it to various stakeholders, neighborhood groups. We're also working with our team internally to post it on our social media sites. So we will be sharing it in a number of ways.
Okay, I guess just the general thing when it comes to public participation in something, and this seems like it's very oriented towards that, is, you know, sometimes I'm concerned around like when we hold like public comment periods or hold a public hearing, but it's like with our public comment periods, it's like still open for the public, any public comment, no one commented, we held a public hearing, the public participated in this plan when no one actually showed up. So it's like that's the minimum floor, right? But always thinking, how do we have the mentality of proactive outreach so that folks are aware that something is happening and are proactively engaged in that. So to the extent that we can be reaching out, letting folks know, just want to make sure that that's, you know, central.
And
I did-
if I could just add, we also, in our meetings with the elected officials, talk to them about outreach into their community, and they're actually feeding back information about like Juneteenth, celebrations, farmers markets, all the types of things that people, their constituents, are attending, so that we can then make sure that we are there and we can do that level of outreach. And also all their newsletters, they all send out newsletters, and so just making sure that we have a very broad distribution so that it's not just us, filling it out. That's a good question.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Can I get a motion from commissioners to approve the reports?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wu, seconded by Commissioner Amanfor. Madam Clerk, would you do a roll call?
Chair Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Amanford,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu, Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Wu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to discussion items. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of item number 5?
Authorization to enter into an agreement with City of Refuge in the amount of $800,000 for project development and funding plan related to a proposed affordable housing project / community engagement facility.
And we have a presentation from staff.
Good evening, Christine Weigert. Today we are seeking approval to enter into an agreement with the City of Refuge to assist in developing a funding plan for an affordable housing project. The City of Refuge is a nonprofit entity which has its main offices in Oak Park. Their mission is to support people living in marginalized communities and to empower their ability to create personal transformations that will lead to a healthy community. They currently offer housing, youth group programs, and community resources. The City of Refuge has acquired 2 parcels located next to their offices at MLK Boulevard and 7th Avenue. And their plan is to build a mixed-use facility that will provide affordable housing, workforce development, and child care for homeless families. The state of California recently allocated $8 million to the City of Refuge to finance the project, with at least 10% of the funds to be allocated to SHRA to develop a financing and funding expenditure plan. Elements of the plan include construction operating budgets, pre-development analysis, and expertise in affordable housing development. The City of Refuge is required to expend the state funds in accordance with the plan and to provide regular expenditure reports to SHRA. So in conclusion, staff is seeking authorization to exercise and execute an agreement with the City of Refuge, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm familiar with the, thank you, Chair. I'm familiar with the group.
Commissioner Starks.
Is it on? Yes. Okay. Walk me through a little bit, just the 8 million and then a percentage of that. It's nothing, that money is coming from some other thing that we're allocating to the City of Refuge. Walk me through that a little bit.
Sure. So this was a special allocation that came through the state legislature. It in no way was funds, attributed to SHRA or the city. It's just state of California funds. And the 8 million was originally budgeted, and then later on it was amended to say that SHRA should be providing services to execute this expenditure plan. So that's where the 10% came from. Again, state legislative analysis or wording action. Thanks, Michelle. So yeah, it's not SHRA's normal funding sources.
So basically, a percentage of that is set aside for us to oversee or to help set a plan in place. Nothing from our existing budget.
Correct.
It's kind of state. That's okay.
Yeah. So if it does, we're not sure the exact amount will end up being, but we're assuming based on the language 10%. So that's $800,000 of the 8 million.
Any other questions, comments? Madam Clerk, are there any public comment?
There is not.
May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Aye. I'd like to put a motion.
I had a, yeah, I
Yes, sir.
second it, but I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ross.
Yes, I second it, but I have a comment. I think this is, 2 meetings ago, there was discussions about different projects and arising, and I think this is the way to go. If it's a project that's having to do with housing that we're all concerned about, I think some of the other commissioners mentioned that we should have some oversight. So I think this is a great idea. Thank you. And I second the motion.
I would agree. So that was moved by Commissioner Manfor, seconded by Commissioner Ross. Can we do a roll call vote?
Chair Duncan?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley?
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor?
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ross?
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu? Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item number 6.
Okay, item number 6 and 7 are going to be presented together, and then we will do the motions separately. So I will read the title of item and 6 and 7. San Juan Apartments, a mutual housing community project, approval of loan documents with the San Juan Mutual Housing Associates, LP, in the amount of $2.5 million. Authorization for the executive director to amend this budget and loan $2.5 million to the developer of the project. Authorization for the executive director to execute an agreement with the city of Sacramento for the pro-housing funds. And conduct a tax equity and fiscal responsibility act hearing, approved $21.5 million in loan documents with the San Juan Mutual Housing Associates for the project. Approval to execute documents, amend SHRA budget, and allocate $2.6 million of county home investment partnership funds, $5.25 million of county housing trust funds, $4.75 million of state local housing trust funds, $2 million of Green Wing Go funding, $1.7 million permanent local housing allocation funds, and $5.2 million of affordable housing ordinance funds to the project. Approval of $123,000 in seller carryback loan funds for the project. Accept Green Means Go funds and enter into a funding agreement with the County of Sacramento for the project. Authorize the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $50 million for the financing of the project.
That is a mouthful, longest title I've ever seen. And we have a presentation from staff.
We do. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Kate Hinton, Program Manager in Development Finance and Portfolio Management. Staff is requesting approval of the final loan and bond documents and approval to add $2 million of Green Means Go funds to the San Juan Apartments. You previously approved $22.6 million loan commitment in February of last year. In addition to the final loan document approvals, we are here to update you all on the additional funding and the changes in the original funding sources. Since last year, the County of Sacramento received $2 million in Green Means Go funds that has been awarded to this project for infrastructure. Additionally, SHRA received permanent local housing allocation, or PLHA funds, and were able to reduce the home funds by $1.7 million and substitute it with PLHA. The City of Sacramento was awarded pro-housing funds, where staff was available to fund this program that allowed us to free up housing trust funds previously committed. San Juan Apartments is a new construction, multifamily workforce family project located at the corner of Stockton Boulevard and Young Street. It will be 113 units that consist of 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms, ranging between 30% and 60% of area median income. Mutual Housing California is the developer, the property management company, and resident service provider. SHRA has owned this land for many years and is excited that construction will start next month. In closing, staff is requesting approval of the final loan and bond documents and the approval of the Green Means Go funds for the San Juan Apartments, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
That was shorter than the title.
I was Vice Chair Nunley.
I believe the city has also received some funding, is it because of this, the canopy with the city of trees for the, trying to make sure that they have the canopy? Are part of those going to be allocated on these where they're doing these projects to make sure that there's adequate coverage with trees and not so much hardscape?
We have not had those conversations with the city staff, but now that you bring it up, maybe we will.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, are there any public comment?
There is not.
So we're going to take these separately. So can I get a motion for, hello. Moved by Commissioner Wu. Can I get a second on item 6?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Amanfor. Can we do a roll call vote?
Chair Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu,
Aye.
Commissioner Starks, Commissioner Wu.
Yes.
All right. For item 7, can I get a motion to adopt?
Motion moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Amanfor, seconded by Commissioner Wu. Can we get a roll call vote for that?
Chair Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu,
Aye.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Wu.
Motion passes. Item number 8, would you please read the title?
Loan commitment in the amount of $7.8 million to Central Sacramento Studios Phase 2 project and to negotiate, enter into, execute, and amend as needed the loan commitment and related documents and Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency's budget for construction, permanent, and operation financing of the project.
And we have a presentation from staff.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Roman Singh, Housing Finance Analyst with Development Finance. Staff is requesting approval of a $7.8 million loan commitment for the new construction of the Central Sacramento Studios 2 project. The Sutter House Motel, which is actually just across the street from where we are, was rehabilitated into Central Sacramento Studios 1, a permanent supportive housing project with 92 units for formerly homeless residents. The project opened in November of 2023. The proposed new construction project is the second phase of the project. Post demolition of the former vacant restaurant, the project will entail a mid-rise 5-story building with 52 units in total, including 35 studio units and 17 one-bedroom units. There will be 1 manager's unit. Amenities on site will include a lounge, multi-purpose room, fitness room, bicycle storage, common room kitchen, laundry room on each floor, a dog park, and also a rooftop terrace. Parking spaces and other amenities such as a pool will be shared between the 2 phases. Additionally, the project is a homeless development with 51 project-based vouchers, and the project will be funded with a permanent loan, tax credits, solar credits, and SHRA loans. Danco Communities developed the first phase of the project and is the developer for the second phase as well. SHRA has approved Danco Property Management as the property manager, and they will service 24-hour desk coverage for both sites. Excuse me. Lutheran Social Services, or LSS, will be the resident provider for the project. That will provide 15 hours of resident services, which will include development support, education classes, and job search assistance. LSS will also be providing supportive services with 3 full-time equivalent case managers to provide more targeted services to the formerly homeless residents. And in closing, staff is recommending approval of the loan commitment of $7.8 million to the new construction of the Central Sacramento Studios Phase 2, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Roman. As far as parking goes, do you have the numbers of the amount of parking that will be on site?
Yeah, so the parking, like I said, will be shared between the two sites, and approximately there are, I think, around 50 or so parking spaces under the structure, and currently they're really underutilized, so during our calculus, we've decided that that it wasn't feasible to create more parking, and considering also the size of the lot for Central Sac 2 is only about 0.4 acres or so.
And it's so close to light rail as well, so they're
Very close, and a bus stop.
public transit accessible. Okay. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Commissioner Starks?
We have other buildings like this that have homeless.
Yes, the one directly across the street is actually Sacramento, Central Sacramento Studios Phase 1 that is permanent supportive, 100% permanent supportive. Yeah.
Short-term, long-term, what's the goal of the residents, the homeless residents there? Are they there for as long as they want to be there? Are they moving from one, at some point, are they?
Yeah, that's correct. So as far as the project-based vouchers go, those are tied to the property. So if a resident has a project-based voucher and they're at that property, they can stay there as long as they want.
It is permanent housing.
Permanent housing.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
There is none.
So may I ask for a motion to adopt the resolution? Moved by Commissioner Wu.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Manford. Can we get a roll call vote?
Chair Duncan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Manford,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Sajambru,
Aye.
Commissioner Starks, and Commissioner Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Would you please read the title of item 9?
Approval to amend Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency's budget to allocate funds and approval to enter into a funding agreement for the Capital Park Hotel project.
And we have a presentation from staff.
Yes. Hello again, Christine Weigert. This report requests authorization to provide $2.65 million in additional funding to the Capitol Hotel project. About a month ago, I was before you requesting additional funding for 2 other projects. As part of that presentation, I gave an overview of recent trends in development costs. As you might remember, common development issues have included the increase in just overall construction costs, increase in insurance rates, and supply disruption, supply line disruptions that are causing delays and longer construction times. And these longer construction timelines mean paying additional and higher interest rates on construction loans. 5 previously funded projects recently applied for additional funding. When reviewing applications for additional funding, staff is looking at various funding and factors such as the ability for additional tax credit equity, borrowing capacity, or decreased developer fee when considering SHRA financing and funding. As a reminder, Capitol Park is located at 9th and L Streets. Rehabilitation of the historic 180-unit single-room occupancy hotel into 134 studio permanent supportive homeless units began in December 2020. SHRA previously approved approximately $20 million to this project. In addition, the project received $9.7 million in No Place Like Home funds, low-income housing tax credits, and historic tax credits. There are project-based vouchers awarded to all units. Mercy Housing is a developer, property manager, and resident service provider. In addition, the county provides case management to the No Place Like Home residents. Construction is now complete, with residents occupying 80 of the units. The remaining 54 units cannot be occupied until a permanent electrical source is installed, specifically a switchgear component that has been delayed for many months and caused a $5 million additional cost to the project. It's anticipated the switchgear will be delivered and installed by October, at which point the remaining units will be leased. To cover these unanticipated interest costs, staff requests authority to allocate the $2.65 million in CDBG and ARPA funds to the project, and Mercy Housing will be responsible for the remaining cost overruns. Representatives from Mercy and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Right, thank you. So I was reading this and I learned about bringing transformers inside and all the electrical components. So because this project started 4+ years ago, and that was not in anyone's purview, is this something that came along, as far as the electrical portion, came along because they found a problem, or there's new regulations that need to be met, or?
There were multiple stages in this development, but the switchgear component was always anticipated. I mean, the fact that they had to bring in the transformer inside, it wasn't originally supposed to be there, it was supposed to be out under the ground in the alleyway. But the switchgear has been on order for a very long time. And, this project started during COVID, and delays started initially and have continued to snowball, and they just haven't caught up. And we've had many projects that have this issue. I mean, we talked about one across the street. That project was delayed, not as long, probably 6 months waiting for each switchgear, but I think given that we're dealing with a historic building, an old building, it's just taking a lot longer to get its parts.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Manfor.
Will this money come out of the Project Homekey program?
No, about half of it is coming out of CDBG funds. We heard a presentation on CDBG earlier tonight. We do allocate funds to housing projects through the CDBG program that can only be used for rehabilitation projects. So this one fits perfectly for that program. And then the HOPLA, Housing Opportunity for People with AIDS. And those two funds were set aside for housing projects, and this project fits. And those units will be restricted to individuals that have, HIV, AIDS.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions or comments? All right. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Oh, she's just ready. Can I get a motion to adopt this resolution? Okay.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Stajabu, seconded by Vice Chair Nunley. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Duncan?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley?
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor?
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ross?
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu?
Motion passes. All right, items 10 and 11 will be presented together. Motions will be done separately. Madam Clerk, would you read the titles of the items, please?
Okay, item 10 is the city report, the annual reports of the Housing Trust Fund, Affordable Housing Ordinance, Home Investment Partnership Program, Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, State Local Housing Trust Fund, Residential Hotel Unit Withdrawal, Conversion and Demolition Ordinance, and the Affordable Housing Plan for the City and County of Sacramento. Number 11 is for the county reports, annual reports of the Housing Trust Fund, Affordable Housing Ordinance, Home Investment Partnership Program, Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, State Local Housing Trust Fund, and the Affordable Housing Plan for the City and County of Sacramento.
Thank you, and we have a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon again, Whitney Hinton, Program Manager in Development Finance and Portfolio Management. This is a housing workshop to review affordable housing projects and funding, and will serve as SHRA's annual reporting on 2 county ordinances, the Housing Trust Fund Ordinance, Affordable Housing Fund Ordinance, and 3 city ordinances, the Housing Trust Fund Ordinance, Mixed Income Housing Ordinance, Single Room Occupancy Ordinance, and 3 additional affordable housing funding sources administered by SHRA. Home, Permanent Local Housing Allocation, or PLHA, and Local Housing Trust Fund, which is state funding, NHC. For the calendar year, in 2023, the county and city of Sacramento have 2 development impact fee programs, one for residential and another for non-residential development. The revenues generated depends upon the fee level per square foot of new construction and the amount of building which occurs in any given year. Both the county and the city Housing Trust Fund Ordinance authorize the collection of impact fees on non-residential construction to fund low and very low income housing. For the County Housing Trust Fund, $31.5 million have been collected, plus $24 million in repayments from loans made with funds. In 2023, $1.4 million was collected in fees, with $45,000 in expenditures. And for the City Housing Trust Fund, $59.2 million have been collected and $15.2 million in repayments for loans made with the funds. In 2023, $371,764 was collected in fees, with $7.4 million in expenditure for projects listed. The County Affordable Housing Fund ordinance is an impact for all new housing developments, with the goal of increasing the supply available for low-income workers. $26.3 million have been collected since 2014. In 2023, $4 million were collected in fees and $666,000 in expenditures. The mixed income housing ordinance is an affordable housing impact fee for all new housing developments, with the goal of increasing the supply available for low-income workers. $9.8 million have been collected since 2015. In 2023, $2.4 million was collected in fees and $2.2 million in expenditures for projects listed on the screen. All funds were committed by the end of 2023. SHRA administers the State California Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program, or PLHA, and it's an entitlement program on behalf of the city and the county. The PLHA funds are generated through recording fees on real estate transactions. 20% of the funds must be reserved for single-family down payment assistance, and the remaining 80% is used for multifamily affordable housing projects. In 2023, $5.9 million were received for funding single-family and multifamily in the city. There was $3.3 million in multifamily expenditure and $234,000 in single-family expenditure. For the county, $2.42 million of PLHA was received. The State of California Housing Trust Fund provides matching funds on a competitive basis to local and regional housing trust funds dedicated to the creation, rehabilitation, or preservation of affordable housing. Matching grants, dollar for dollar, are awarded to local governments with established sources of affordable housing funds in the county and in the city. In the county, SHRA has been awarded $3.7 million in local housing trust funds. In 2023, $950,000 was expended on projects. In the city, SHRA has been awarded $5 million in local housing trust funds. SHRA administers entitlement grants from HUD on behalf of the county and the city. Home funds are used for multifamily housing production or preservation. These funds have hard deadlines for expenditure, and it is critical that we have identified eligible projects so that we are never in a position of returning funds to the federal government. County Home generated $3.3 million in entitlement with $628,000 in loan repayments in 2023. There are now 3 projects under construction utilizing home funds. The City Home Funds generated $2.7 million in entitlement with $676,000 in loan repayments in 2023. There are now 4 projects under construction utilizing home funds for the city. The single room occupancy ordinance is also reported on in the staff report. SHRA is required to provide an annual update on the number of residential hotel units downtown, withdrawal, and number of units constructed annually. In 2023, there were no changes to the number of units withdrawn or added. For the Affordable Housing Plan, the county and the city of Sacramento entered into a partnership agreement in 2022 to improve coordination on permanent supportive housing production and rehousing efforts for the homeless. The agreement required in the preparation of the Affordable Housing Plan to analyze the issue and set goals. The Affordable Housing Plan was developed with community input and approved by County Board of Supervisors and City Council in October 2023. Two sections make up that plan: permanent supportive housing and rehousing. For permanent supportive housing, the measurable target activity is creating 300 permanent supportive housing and 100 affordable housing units. That goal was exceeded by creating 372 units of permanent supportive housing and 262 units of affordable housing units. And on the screen, there's a typo near the bottom of the screen. It says 426, that should be 372. Other goals, such as updating zoning goals, developing new partnerships, obtaining additional funding, and others are in various stages of implementation as outlined in the report. For rehousing, the goal is 220 rehousing slots per year and 29 full-time case management. A gap analysis and identification of funding needs and resources is underway to meet this goal, in addition to establishing standards and performance metrics and other analysis. This concludes my presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. And it's always good to hear that we have more permanent supportive housing and other units that are being developed. So. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Manfor.
Just one quick question. I saw in your presentation it stated San Juan. Is that the name of the project, or is it based off the developers that are doing this?
The name of the project, the one I presented on.
Okay. Just want to confirm it. Thank you.
Commissioner Ross.
My question is on some of the earlier slides, not towards the end. I was trying to understand loan repayment, and by whom and to whom. So, yeah.
So for the previous loans that we've administered in the past to developers, once those loans are due and payable, they repay those funds back to us, and we, in return, then put those funds back out for new developments in the future. Okay. So they're paid back by the developer.
So when you were given the revenue obtained, that was like the total, and then the subset of that was from loan repayments and interest. Is that what that means? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have any public comment on this item or these items?
We do not.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve item number 10? Moved by Commissioner Wu.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Manfor. Can we do a roll call vote?
Chair Duncan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley.
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos.
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
I muted myself. Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stajabu.
Aye.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Commissioner Wu.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. And for item number 11, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
By Commissioner Manfor, seconded by Commissioner Wu. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Duncan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley.
Aye.
Commissioner Manfor.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos.
Aye.
Commissioner Ross.
Aye.
Commissioner Stajabu.
Aye.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Commissioner Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. Item number 12, would you please read the title of the item?
Update on the FY22 Public Housing Assessment System scores.
All right, and we have a presentation from staff.
Good evening, Chair Duncan and members of the Commission. My name is Sarah O'Daniel, and I'm here today to present to you information about the fiscal year 2022 Public Housing Assessment System scores, or the FAS scores for short. Today's presentation is going to be informational and will be followed by subsequent meetings where more detailed updates will be provided. The FAS system is used by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD for short, to annually assess the management of the public housing program. Starting in 2020, with the sweep of the COVID-19 virus around the country, both housing authorities and the residents were significantly impacted by the virus. Starting in 2020, Yeah, I already said, sorry. HUD did understand the difficulties that housing authorities were going through, not only with the residents being impacted, but staff as well. And so they provided regulatory relief through waivers. One such waiver was related to the annual FAS assessment. HUD took the 2019 scores and rolled them over for both the 2020 and the 2021 years for both the city and county public housing programs. However, HUD did inform us that this relief was coming to an end at the end of 2021 and that they would start the FAS scoring in 2022. Keep in mind, we were still in the pandemic at that time, and President Biden had not declared an end to the national emergency related to the pandemic until April of 2023. So what exactly is FAS? HUD uses a 100-point scoring system based on 4 different categories to assess the public housing program. The 4 categories are the physical assessment, the financial assessment, the management assessment, and the capital fund program assessment, all adding up to 100 points. If in aggregate of the 4 categories you get 90 or above, you are a high performer. If you get between 60 and 89, you are a standard performer. And if you get 0 to 59 points, you are in trouble status. Under the physical assessment, HUD is looking to determine whether the public housing units are decent, safe, sanitary, and in good repair. Under the financial section, HUD is looking at the financial performance of the public housing. And the information comes from the audited data for that particular fiscal year. For management, they're looking at the resident accounts receivable and resident revenue, accounts payable to measure total vendor accounts against total monthly operating expenses, and also look at occupancy numbers. For capital fund, HUD is looking at the period of time it takes us to obligate the capital funds, and they also look at the occupancy numbers. Looking at our previous public housing assessments from 2015 to 2019, in the city, our scores ranged from 94 to 85, so it's high and standard performer. In the county, our scores ranged from 80 to 89, so standard performer. And for both the city and county FAS, as mentioned earlier, due to the pandemic, the 2019 scores were rolled over for 2020 and 2021. Recently, we received our scores for the 2022 fiscal year, and we received a score of 32 in the county and 47 in the city, putting us in the troubled status category. We have never had such scores before. Letters from HUD are sent to the chair and vice chair, and letters are coming through snail mail to all the commissioners. I want to share 3 critical things that were happening at the Housing Authority during the pandemic to provide some context for these scores. On the financial side, the Housing Authority had been submitting a combined single audit for many years as part of the FAS submission. However, in July 2021, upon HUD's review of the 2019 audit report, they determined that separate audited financial data for the City Housing Authority and the County Housing Authority was required. As a result, the Housing Authority had to revisit the audited financials for the 2019 audit, while simultaneously working on the audit for 2021 and 2020. This put a significant strain on staff resources, as well as the resources of the audit firm, resulting in staff not submitting the fiscal year 2022 audited information to HUD on time. This was called a late presumptive failure by HUD because the financial statements were not submitted by the September 30th, 2023 deadline. This made us lose all 25 points under the financial category and a portion of the points in the management category where they looked at financial information as well. At this time, we are currently working on the 2023 fiscal year audit to make sure we meet the September 30th deadline. We have hired additional staff and engaged with consulting resources as well to assist the team. A second contextual item is that with the pandemic, there was a severe staffing shortfall, which impacted both our workforce as well as the workforce as the external auditors, as mentioned. The finance department experienced an 86% turnover of staff, which required constant onboarding and training of new staff, which severely impacted the finance team. This also slowed down the re-audit of the 2019, 2020, and 2021 audits, further complicating meeting the deadline of the fiscal year 2022 audit. Currently, we have all but one position in the finance department filled and are actively recruiting for the last position, and we are focusing heavily on training the new staff. The third item to note is that during the pandemic, both the state and local jurisdictions passed legislation that provided rent relief to households through rent moratoriums for those impacted by COVID-19. This was needed for the protection of renters. However, it significantly impacted financial operations of the housing authority because many renters stopped paying their portion of rent, and legislation prohibited us from evicting tenants for non-payment of rent. Between 2020 and 2022, at the height of the pandemic, there was a 17.5% rent collection delinquency rate in comparison to the pre-pandemic rate of 5%. Currently, we are at a 13% delinquency rate. Our executive director, Ms. Dozier, is in close contact with the director of HUD, Region 9, and we know our game plan for 2024. Our 2024 focus is to ensure that the fiscal year 23 audit is submitted to HUD on time or before the deadline of September 30th, 2024. We are prioritizing filling the vacant positions at SHRA, especially the finance position that is still out there, to stabilize our workforce and provide the appropriate training. We have ramped up our engagement with the residents who haven't been paying rent for months, even years. We need them to start paying their portion of the rent or inform us if their income has decreased so we can adjust their rent, or work with them to enter into a repayment plan. We also need to train our public housing and maintenance staff on the new inspection protocol called INSPIRE. Stands for National Standards for the Physical Inspection of Real Estate. That is being launched by HUD this fall. These inspection guidelines are different from the current guidelines that we have right now and really focus more on the inside of the units versus the external. In addition, there are significant HUD regulatory changes and technological advancements that must take place this year. These changes are all mandated by HUD, and I will use a couple acronyms and explain it. They are called the HOTMA regulatory changes, the HIP conversions, I did not come up with these acronyms, and the new INSPIRE inspection protocols. HOTMA is the Housing Opportunities for Modernization Act of 2016, an implementation of which is still being rolled out 8 years later by HUD to streamline both the public housing and voucher programs. HIP stands for the Housing Information Portal, where there's a migration of all our data that has to take place that is on our systems here, from the old public housing system to the new state-of-the-art system that HUD has. Supposedly, this will improve the submission of the data from housing authorities around the country to HUD. This is a very huge undertaking. I cannot stress how huge it is. It involves our software vendors, our IT staff, and staff across all the departments. So between INSPIRE, HIP, and HOTMA, there is a lot of changes that we have to go through and implement this year. But our focus is still very, very clear. We must get the financial documentation to HUD on time and meet all the necessary metrics to increase our scores in all 4 categories. Our next step is to submit a proposed corrective action plan to HUD by June 7th. We are well underway to have this done ahead of schedule. HUD will come on site to work with staff and evaluate the program. We will enter into a recovery agreement with HUD, which usually will take about 6 months to get in place. This plan will be detailed to meet specific milestones, and we have 2 years to change our status. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but I know that working as a team, the finance, public housing staff will meet the necessary HUD targets. In addition, staff would like to tap into the expertise of the commissioners and gain valuable input from our residents. And to that end, staff recommends that a task force be established comprising of 4 commission members and 1 resident advisory board member who is appointed by the executive director. This will provide staff feedback and input as we implement the recovery plan. This concludes my presentation, and Mark Hamilton is here for technical questions, as well as LaShawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Vice Chair Nunley.
I did have one question. Obviously, it was a little bit of a surprise to receive the letter. Had HUD given you notice ahead of time before the letter was sent to us? Because that, I would assume, would be the proper protocol that they should follow, not your fault or anything.
Yes, HUD had indicated that we would be getting a letter, but HUD did not know our scores for many, many months. So we kept inquiring, they kept saying they were waiting for headquarters. So it's just, waiting. And then finally the letter, the scores came. And then after that, HUD then said that they would be sending the letter.
Oh, okay.
Because they have a timeline where they have to get that letter out after the scores were posted for us.
Okay, and I assume it was very short between that, so that's why it came to us. Because that, typically as an auditor, you always give the courtesy to the organization. So it was a little shocking to.
Well, and we're talking about 2022.
Yes.
We're now 2024.
The other thing I was going to ask, because you said 2019 is when you had the scores and everything was fine. Pandemic hit, they paused everything, which is great. But then at the same time, they were saying, oh, and starting 2019, we'll accept this one. But going forward, you have to now have 2 separate ones. Did I understand that correct?
HUD takes a while to look at the information. We submitted the fiscal year 2019 information in 2020. They did not get around to it until 2021.
Okay.
So in July, when they met with us, they were talking about the 2019 scores, and they said it needs to be separated.
Okay.
And we actually did request to make the change going forward, because then we wouldn't have to go back and restate. And it went back and forth for a very long time. And finally, they just came down and said, no, you have to go back to 2019. And that's what really caused so much extra work. And we had to engage the auditors and pay additional money for them to go back and redo all of those financial statements.
But at the same time, the 2019 score held, even though you
Because
had
of
to
the waivers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very, very interesting. And then you talked about the labor shortage, from what I understand as well, within the department, which I assume experienced this high turnover just.
Well, we experienced high turnover, during the pandemic in general, across the entire agency. And we were struggling to, get positions filled. Obviously, we were dealing with, trying to maintain the units, but we ourselves had employees who, had COVID and who were out and then they were in, and, all of the things that we were doing, if you recall.
Yes.
So yeah, it was very, very difficult, for recruiting. We still struggle, things are getting a little bit better in terms of recruiting, but if you look across the agency, we have, I think, over 70% of our people have maybe been here 5 years or less, which is the opposite of what we used to have.
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very difficult and challenging. I could understand where you talked about onboarding. It has to be incredibly difficult. And then the last one was, you talked about the rent collection became an issue as well, because there was that moratorium and then there was other things, and I believe the city and county put all of those things on those.
Absolutely, and one of the things we did encourage our residents to communicate with us, come in and let us know. As you know, the way that the program works is 30% based on your income.
Right.
But if during COVID, if there was unusual circumstances, so you had, let's say, unusual medical expenses or something that was mitigating situation, then we would take that into account, but we needed you to come in and communicate with us. And also, we were encouraging our residents to apply for SHRA, for the Emergency Rental Assistance, which quite a few did, But then outside of that, then we just had it was just no contact, so, it just kind of kept rolling forward until we're now at a point where, after all the moratoriums are over and everything else, where we're trying to get the residents back onto payment agreements. Our job is to keep people in housing. We are not here, we take no, glory in trying to move somebody out. No, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So we try and do everything possible to work on those tenant repayment agreements, which stretch out for a very long time. So it's not like, a few months, there could be a couple of years to, catch up, and we're limited in terms of how much, so that people can still obviously maintain living. So those were the challenges that we faced then, and now it's all rolling forward and, kind of righting that ship and getting back on track.
Yeah, I really like what you said, that you're not in the business of doing that. So it's kind of, you're doing this struggle at the same time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Manfor?
I just have to make a comment. I'm curious to know what evidence-based data they utilize to readjust the benchmark for you guys to actually have a low score, because logically, since the pandemic, you would assume that there's gonna be a lot of issues. So I'm curious as to how they came up with those scores, but I'm confident that, SHRA is gonna be able to really do what they can. And if you need any assistance, I'm here. And see you guys have the task force, so I'm gonna put my hat in the ring if you guys need any support. But I know it's gonna be a lot, because I've done audit before, so I know it's gonna be a challenge. But hopefully, I see a bright light in the tunnel. So keep up the work.
And the other thing that we're seeing is that, many other housing authorities have been impacted in the same way. And a part of HUD's struggle is now they've got, quite a few that they've now got to monitor and staff up. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're working really, really hard. This has been a very difficult blow for the staff. I mean, they worked like crazy during the pandemic. We are, essential employees. The pandemic hit on like a Thursday. We came to work on a Friday, the executive team, and we were back up and running by that Monday. We were getting people home, getting computers, and they really, really worked very, very hard. So it's very difficult now to get, it's kind of like a gut punch, to have to really address these scores. We really did a lot of hard work, but it's where we are, and that's the resilience of SHRA employees, that they will pull ourselves out of this and move forward.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes. Executive Director Dozier, thank you for that. That was one of my questions. My suggestion would be for a presentation on this, maybe to lead off, to say what we're about to present. Several or many other housing authorities have run into this particular problem, because that was the question. And especially if we're talking about the pandemic and the effects of that. I mean, these are some things that, are out of control. And, I think and I would imagine this information is going to be presented to the Board of County Supervisors as well as the City Council. Am I correct? So, do they already know?
The commission does, I have been briefing and discussing that with the city and the county, but the purview is the commission, which is why I came to the chair and the vice chair of the commission.
Okay, so it doesn't get reported to it's just us, our committee here, or our board. It doesn't go to the City Council or to the County Board of Supervisors?
It was sent to the chair and vice chair of the commission. However, I'm still keeping them apprised and looped in.
Okay, so I guess my point is, just to, try to address, as that information goes out, doesn't look great, but it's not SHRA's fault. And, again, to be able to highlight also that other housing authorities were going through the struggle, I think that would be something that should come up front or should be part of the report, because otherwise sometimes it looks like, oh, we failed, or but that's not in your all's control. There's many factors that are significant there. So I think that's something that should be highlighted. That's one of the things I wanted to know. How do we do compared to others? So that's one. And I stick with the presentation with Mrs. O'Donnell and Commissioner Manfor. And with you, I'm sure this will be able to be fixed, and looks like you're already on the right track. I do have some concern or questions regarding rent collection. And I know we're not in the business of, releasing people from housing, but also at the same time, I mean, if that's a scoring factor, how long, when's the limit? Because there's a lot of people on the waiting list, I would imagine, that also are struggling with housing, that, may be able to, or waiting to get that opportunity. I mean, 2 years, I would imagine, of not paying is quite a long time. And I imagine they get recommendations and helps and so forth. But I mean, there are other people out there struggling that said, boy, if I could get that opportunity, that would make all the difference. So I'm just curious to see, is there a deadline that folks are given before somebody else who's also struggling has an opportunity? How long is that deadline? How long do they have?
So we have been working with the residents and getting communication out for many months. In all honesty, we started working on that communication, that was last year. Last year. And so it's just not us. I mean, we are a large landlord, but if you look at just regular market rate housing or other affordable, everyone's grappling with this exact same issue. I talk to my counterparts, they have the exact same problem in terms of, some tenants who haven't paid in a very long time. So as you can imagine, as the moratoriums and things lift, then there's a huge backlog that then goes to the courts. So then the court system gets bogged down, and it takes months and months and months. So we are kind of going through and kind of triaging and looking at those that kind of have the highest balances. How can we assist or help? But then kind of methodically working through, those outstanding tenant accounts receivable. But it is very difficult to even get into the courts for eviction at this particular time. But that is something that we are going forward with.
Okay. The reason I mentioned that is when I was stationed in Seattle, for instance, there were, everyone was working with the tenants, but there were some tenants that were just bad actors. And they were working with when in your case, SHRA, the landlords, others to be able to say, hey, well, there are other candidates that could be, you know, great tenants that were living in trailers and had employment. They just needed, you know, a hand up and not a handout. So anyway, it was something that was significant. It was helping clear some of the streets, but of course this puts other people back into homelessness. So I understand that dilemma. However, I'm just saying there are others out there that when I was doing my surveying out there, 50% of the individuals that were living in vehicles were actually employed. They acquired an asset, just like many of us acquire a house, and they just need an opportunity. So just one thought, and who knows when this comes up, is the ones that just are you know, for bad reasons that just aren't doing well, you know, maybe a thought would be to, you know, I know it gets hung up in the court, but to, you know, be able to switch them out with other people who are equally struggling, but you know, housing like that can make a huge difference. I know it's a tough choice, but anyway, just something to be thinking about as a possibility. But I'm with you. My heart's with you all, and I hope that and know that you'll be able to correct this and move forward. So and it looks like you're already on the way. So thank you for those responses. Tough stuff to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all of
Now, did I hear correctly that you mentioned that there are 2 years that are given to improve the scores?
That is correct.
Okay. And to what extent does this first time low score impact SHRA? Is there, for a situation like this, is there a reduction of funding, or what exactly occurs?
There is no reduction in funding, but of course it impacts, like Michelle said, all of us, because we've all been working really hard and the scores are low, and we've never had such low scores ever before. So we definitely want to get out of this status, but there is no reduction in funding that we are aware of.
Yeah, and I mean, the issue obviously in terms of what does impact our financials is the tenant accounts receivable, so the non-collection of rent. So that is another reason why it's so important, because that's a part of the budget, you know, that's a part of how we, you know, build into our operations that we're not receiving those funds.
There is an impact as far as the frequency of inspections. So once a PHA has been designated as trouble, they're required to go through physical inspections of all of their units on an annual basis until they're out of the troubled status. So there is a bit
regulation.
And there's more of an administrative load for the staff to kind of carry. And then certain supplemental capital fund grants, the troubled status may make the housing authority ineligible for those funds until that troubled status is cleared.
But one of the things in our conversations and working with our field office, and because, you know, this is kind of hit more than one, they really, I would say, are trying to do everything they can to assist. They, you know, we had the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Rich Manacchio, who came and actually toured. And one of the things he said is that, you know, the agency is a very, very high performing housing authority, because we do more than just your traditional housing authority. You know, we do all the work that Christine does and her staff, and, you know, we have CNI grants and all these other things. They really felt that this was something that we could remedy pretty quickly and get moving beyond this and back to a lot of the good work that we've been doing. So for what it's worth, that's what we're hearing from them.
Yeah.
Commissioner Starks.
You know, I'm retired from SMUD, but
just rub it in.
I'm just rubbing it in. But there are a lot of people who couldn't pay, and the culture happened in 2019 that a lot of them didn't pay, and you know, we have regulatory folks, but it's a little different than what you're looking at. And and I almost want to say chill out, because it's almost like one politically, when you get so high, it becomes kind of a political monster the higher you get in your world, not my world, in your world. And everyone's looking to cover their you-know-whats. And I've been listening for practices and behaviors, and I haven't heard it. I haven't heard that this agency, prior to COVID, got low scores. Haven't heard that. I haven't heard anything that would send the average reasonable person into a kind of tailspin when you're talking about this agency. And I've been with it for a minute. If Gail was here, he would probably agree with what I said. So it's almost like one bureaucracy has to cover their you-know-what by coming at another bureaucracy and these little things. So I want to say, let's just, okay, there's a degree of inflexibility here in that they could say, yeah, it was 2019. Look what was going on. I got you. But they can't do that because a politician will come and say something, so they can't say that. And I get that. I'm just watching this bureaucracy happen. So as someone who is one among many people who've been watching the store, we got your back. Just keep doing your good work. And if you need some of us to sit on a panel or a commission, we're there. But we know that this is not the agency that has to be overseen for 2 years because we have a history of bad practice. Get out of here with that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay. So can I get a motion and a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wu, seconded by Commissioner Manfor. May we have a roll call vote?
Chair Duncan?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nunley?
Aye.
Commissioner Manford?
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ross?
Aye.
Commissioner Stajagu? Commissioner Starks?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we need members for the task force.
Oh, yes. And since Commissioner Stark said that we would have to be there, would you? And you said 4?
Yes, we were looking for up to 4.
Commissioner Manfor? Commissioner Jefferson? And Vice Chair Nunley?
Great, thank you so
And
much.
then I will reach out to the RAB about additional person who can also sit on the task force.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that piece.
Okay.
We'll now move to the Executive Director's report.
All right, thank you. Okay, we knew this was gonna be a long night, so we're moving right along. I wanted to let you know that tomorrow is the grand opening for Central Sacramento Studios, right across the street, at 10 o'clock. Is it 10 a.m.? At 10 a.m. So hopefully if you have an opportunity, that'd be great, that you can come on out and help us celebrate that grand opening. And then I also wanted to talk about the meeting schedule. So the June 5th meeting will be canceled, and we'll keep you informed of the next meeting date. It looks like there are no items currently scheduled for June 19th. And July 3rd is canceled, so it looks like maybe our next meeting will be July 17th. But that'll also give us an opportunity to convene the task force so that we can find a really good time and figure out what works. It might be easier in the future if it's right before the meeting, so that way, you don't have to take an additional time. But we'll reach out and contact and see what will work very well for everyone. So let's see. Yeah, so those are the main things, and then I have another special appreciation that I wanted to extend. This is a really sad day for us because it is Commissioner Sajabu's last day on our commission. So I went over and gave her a really, really sad puppy face, and she was like, don't look at me all sad. Well, I'll let her talk about, kind of what her next endeavors are, but I really want to express our deepest gratitude. She has been on the commission since 2015, and we're really, truly, truly going to miss you and all of your words of wisdom. You've watched a lot of transformation happen and been very, very supportive, and we are happy for you as you, like I said, move on, but sad that you won't be at the commission. But you can always come and just hang out and do public comment and and do whatever you would love to do to continue your support. But I'm gonna turn it over to you and any other fellow commissioners. And we have a little gift I want to also present you with.
Sam tried to give me this. Well, I'll be moving on to Roseville, which means I'll be in Placer County. And I can no longer stay in public housing, which has been a blessing to me. And public housing is one of the best things for people like me, seniors who are tired, working, don't have any money, kids grown, gone, everything. And Gibson Oaks, the unit that I live in, before the pandemic was a beautiful, restful, peaceful environment. Of course, everything changed. And my daughter felt like I wasn't safe there anymore. And she's asked me to move with her. So that's why I'm leaving. Not that I'm tired of seeing your beautiful faces and hearing all the problems of the world that they lay at your door every month. But unless y'all know somebody that knows somebody, it will not be possible for me to stay on the commission. But anything I can do to help, I'll be glad to. You know where to reach me. And if I can be of any service, I'll still be performing. I'm a poet and a writer. So my daughter won't let me retire yet. And we'll be performing for Juneteenth in West Sacramento. And we'll be performing for the Sacramento Poetry Center also in June. So, I'm still writing, still publishing. So I'm not out of the game yet. Still in the game. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for all your kindness, all your hard work. Y'all are the hardest working people I've ever worked for and worked with. And I get really upset when people say anything negative about SHRA, and I won't let them call y'all SHRA. It's SHRA. Yeah, we don't play that. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Starks.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure sitting at this podium dais with Stajabu, knowing her commitment in the community, straight out scribe, bringing spoken word, like the original poets of the 60s, she's the original poet. So, look, this is meant to be. Spending close time with family, and I couldn't think of a better way to transition than to be close to your daughter and family in this time. So may the blessings of life continue to happen to you.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay. I won't give you no cheap stuff.
Well, what can I say? You were on here before I got here, and so thank you for the wisdom and guidance of being on here and being committed. You, like you said, the whole 8 years, was it, or something you've been here, never have you ever attended a meeting that we didn't have a quorum. So I'm sorry I have to preside over that, but you've just been so great, and I can't think of anything better than to say what Commissioner Stark said, continued blessings. What a blessing that you get to be with your daughter. We will miss you. It is our loss. We will miss you tremendously. But all the best, all the blessings.
Make my quick. Just want to say we're gonna miss you. Ross, I got it. Just want to say we're gonna miss you. Definitely appreciate and enjoy our pre-meeting conversations here and there. And I like everyone to say you're extremely committed. And that's something that that's indication as far as who you are. And that's something that we all that's what I look up to. So truly appreciate it. Gonna miss you. And good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes, just echoing everyone's words. I just want to say, you know, as still trying to claim youngster, but that's going to end pretty soon. Maybe it's already ended. But thank you so much for your service, Stajabu, because forgive me of that, Stajabu, because I think really when we're thinking of, you know, our seniors and so forth, and you know, you have just shown the rest of us how to keep serving, and I know you're going to continue to do so in whatever capacities and ways that you can. I not just wish, I pray for blessings out there for you in Roseville and whatever you're going to get involved in, and you know, continue to stay connected. But thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin.
Commissioner Wu.
So I want to thank you. I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody has said, but Jesus, you know, if we could all aspire to your level, we would be a great unit. So I'm hoping that we'll get there. You're so committed. I'm really thankful for everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I haven't been here as long as some others, but I do just want to thank you for your dedication, for your heart, for your knowledge, and for your commitment. It's absolutely commendable for your service to our community, not only here on the SHRA Commission, but also through your art, through your poetry, and all that you share with the community. So thank you so much. If I could have a resolution, I would call this Stajabu Day, but I don't have that right. But we do thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
I just have one question. So in terms of your poetry, was that something you have always done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there was hope for me then.
My daughter and I are a poetry team.
Oh, okay.
And we've been performing together for 34 years.
Wow.
And we've performed as features at over 600 institutions, colleges, churches, schools, parties, but everything over the past 34 years. And before that, we were in Delaware, and we performed there through Delaware State College. And before that, Oakland. So we've been doing this for a long time.
Well, great. Well, we know who to call if we need to have some poets in the house.
Sure. Yeah. And I can perform a poem like that Okay, you wanna hear one?
Yeah.
Stand on. Sometimes I feel like a river, fluid, black, buoyant, flowing through life. Born near the Delaware, I've crossed the Mississippi, followed the Colorado, the Rio Grande, walked paths by the St. Charles, the Schuylkill, the Hudson, the American, and the Nile. Seen my face mirrored in living waters traveling everywhere, running, roaring, rippling, and raging, constantly moving through time, carrying me, carrying me, carrying me home. Sometimes I feel like a river. I'll have a
It's never too late to start, so. You can always take it.
That was pretty intimidating. That's great. And that,
And
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Y'all don't know, you got the baddest executive director. And I was privileged to be a part of this organization. It was a blessing for me, believe me. Thank you.
All right, and I'll let that be the last word. Since we have no other business, I will adjourn the meeting.
Let's just start.
We stayed the whole time. I stayed the whole time. I'm just